They call me Raphael. When mortals speak my name, they think of healing, mercy, and restoration, and they are not wrong. But healing is not softness alone. Healing is the act of restoring what darkness tried to damage, of reclaiming what suffering tried to steal, and of pushing back corruption with the quiet authority of heaven. It is not weakness. It is divine strength made gentle. I have walked beside the sick, the grieving, the fearful, and the broken. I have stood near those whose bodies were failing, and near those whose spirits had already begun to collapse long before their flesh gave way. Mortals fear the wounds they can see, but the deeper wounds are often the hidden ones. The soul can bleed in silence while the world notices nothing, and yet heaven sees it all. I was sent not only to heal, but also to guide. Many pray for rescue, expecting thunder, spectacle, and sudden deliverance. Yet rescue often begins more quietly than that. It begins with direction, with a warning, with a hand that leads a soul away from danger before it even understands how lost it has become. Guidance is often the first mercy. The road shown is often the beginning of the healing. There was once a young man named Tobias, and I walked beside him on a road he did not fully understand. He believed he was traveling on an earthly mission, carrying out a duty set before him as a son, but he did not know heaven was traveling with him. I did not come to him in unveiled glory. I came in hidden form as a companion, because not every work of God is done through awe. Some are done through nearness. That is often how I work. Not always through sudden miracles, but through presence, patience, and faithful direction. Mortals tend to notice heaven only when the impossible breaks into the visible world. Yet many of the most important mercies arrive so quietly that they are only understood later. A path cleared, a storm survived, a burden carried with help unseen. Even when heaven seems silent, it is not absent. What mortals call coincidence is often touched by providence. They see chance, timing, and luck because they cannot see the whole pattern. But heaven often arranges what they dismiss as random. A door opens when it must. A danger is avoided by a single decision. Two paths cross at exactly the needed moment. What seems accidental below may already have been woven with perfect intention above. When blindness covered the eyes of Tobit, I revealed the remedy that would restore his sight. Yet the healing was greater than one man seeing again. Hope returned to the household. Joy returned to the family. Faith returned where fear had settled in. This is the way of God's mercy. When heaven restores, it rarely touches only one wound. The healing spreads outward, carrying light back into places where grief had been growing. But healing does not happen in a harmless world. There are forces that corrupt, torment, distort, and devour. There are powers that delight in fear, despair, and decay. Mercy does not ignore such darkness. Mercy confronts it. To heal what is broken, one must also drive back what is breaking it. That is why gentleness must never be mistaken for weakness. The hand that restores can also command darkness to retreat. Mortals often imagine healing as a return to what once was, but that is not always the highest form of restoration. Sometimes healing is transformation. Sometimes a soul passes through suffering and emerges wiser, humbler, stronger, and more alive to the mercy of God than before. The scar may remain, but it no longer speaks of defeat. It becomes a witness that pain was real. Darkness struck deeply, and yet it did not have the final word. That is why I am sent to the weary, the anxious, and the wandering. I am sent to those who no longer know how to move forward, to those who feel stranded somewhere between sorrow and hope. I am not only the angel of recovery, I am also the angel of the journey back. Back to clarity, back to peace, back to trust, back to the quiet knowledge that God has not abandoned them, even on the longest road. Many cry out to God only when pain becomes unbearable, yet even then they are heard. The whispered prayer from a sickbed, the tears shed in darkness, the desperate plea from one who no longer has the strength to form words clearly. None of it is hidden from heaven. The Lord who formed flesh understands its weakness, and the Lord who gave breath is never blind to grief. No prayer offered in suffering is ever lost. Yet not every healing comes in the form mortals expect. Some ask for relief and are given endurance. Some ask for a door to open and are instead guided through a narrow path. Some beg for pain to disappear, but are given strength enough to keep walking through it. This too can be mercy. This too can be healing. God's answer is not always the removal of the burden. Sometimes it is the gift of being carried through it. I have watched people resent the road that later saved them. I have seen them grieve delays that kept them from ruin. Mortals see fragments and judge moments, but God sees the whole design. What feels like confusion from below may already be perfect wisdom from above. The path may seem long, uneven, and full of detours, yet still lead exactly where mercy intended it to go. My name is tied to healing, but all healing flows from God. I do not heal by my own glory, nor guide by my own wisdom. I am sent, I serve, I carry what has been given. Whatever restoration comes through me comes from the throne of the eternal, from the one whose mercy is greater than human sorrow, and whose power reaches into every place darkness has tried to claim. And this is the comfort hidden beneath all suffering. Pain is not sovereign. Fear is not sovereign. Darkness is not sovereign. Decay is not sovereign. God alone is sovereign. That is why hope can endure even in weakness, why light can enter ruined places, and why healing remains possible even where despair has made its home. The broken are not forgotten. The wounded are not unseen. So when you think of me, do not think only of gentle light and comforting hands. Think also of the long road, the hidden guide, the unseen defender, and the faithful servant sent into the world with mercy from above. I am Raphael. I walk where healing is needed. I stand where hope is fading, and I guide those who cannot yet see the way. Where God wills restoration, I bear His mercy into the world.